Hello, my name is Braden Harms, and here we see an everyday toaster that our customers, so anyone that enjoys breakfast, would use. So it is a typical design, as many of you are familiar with. You push a piece of toast in, you push the button, it then toasts the piece of bread, and then it will pop out. We see several customer needs in this, being that it is an unimaginative process and is not engaging. We think that the idea of toast can be reimagined in a way where it's more engaging for the consumer. And so we sought to remedy this. So here you have our solution. So this is a highly interactive toaster in which you can manually control exact toasting on the bread with a multi-axis gantry system. So here we have our user inputs. So it's going to be a joystick and a button. So we have two axes controlled by the joystick. So we have a radial axis here, and then we have a kind of horizontal axis here. And then with a push of a button, we can plunge the solder in it. So I can move to a spot, choose where I want it to be. Let's say there is good. I will then push the button, and it will plunge into the piece of toast. So I'm going to leave it here and kind of move it around to get a good kind of defined toasting on this. And then I can go up and go over to another spot. Let's say here. I will then plunge again. Wait for it to do some good toasting. Kind of once again do a little jiggling action back and forth. And then I will then try to do a more arcing motion. So I will plunge here. Once again, moving in an arcing path, moving slow so I can get a good toasting on the entire piece of bread. Okay, we can then push up and then move our piece of toast, and we have a cute little smiley face engraved into our toast. And personally, I can say that I am now much more happy. So,
hi, my name is Tony Alfonso, and along with Braden Harms, I did a lot of the development for this beautiful toast engraver that can make people happy with happy toast. And I'm going to walk you through our code a little bit. So here's a flowchart of how our code works. We start by initializing the Arduino IDE. Then we establish all of the pins on the Arduino that we are going to use. And then we go ahead and set our stepper and servo motor speeds, which the servo controls our Z-axis and the stepper motors control our radial axis and our horizontal axis. We then read the inputs for the controller that the user has, and we determine whether or not we need to actuate the motors. We do this through checking if a Z-axis button has been pressed, and if so, we will move the servo up or down. And we check if and this is a constantly updating check of whether or not there are new inputs from the joystick. And then if they are, we actuate the motors in the direction that we need to make sure that it follows what the user input was. So here's a quick code snippet for the servo. The top part here is making sure that the button doesn't get pressed multiple times in a row, and that it has a true toggle functionality such that you press it once and hold it, it won't constantly be going up and down. And then we just make the servo go down or up depending on what the previous state was. Then next we have stepper code that this controls for both axes. It just has a different stepper for these different lines here. If you look at it, we define the pins that we are reading from, and then we have our stepper if statements that control them to go forward or backwards depending on what the user input is. Here we have a wiring diagram. We have our servo over here that wires up into the Arduino like so, and then we have two driver motors that are wired into the Arduino that each control a stepper motor respectively. And then we have our Z-axis button. And let me talk to you a little bit about how our motor functionality actually works. We have one stepper motor back here that is hooked up to this belt that controls the axis lines for the horizontal axis, as you can see here. And underneath here on the bottom, we also have another stepper motor that is controlled by the button as well that gives our axial direction. Oh, excuse me. There we go. And then finally, we have a servo, if you can see back here, right here, that controls our z-axis motion, and it functions on a cam system that is a little difficult to see, but if you look at it right there, you can see it go up and then down and up, excuse me. And that is how our product functions. I hope that you enjoyed our presentation. I hope that you consider either investing or consider buying one of these for yourself. Thank you.